Hi. In previous videos, we've talked about emotions as being the central cause of suffering with people, and specifically the emotions they have in relationships. And that you as the clinician, your goal is to try and push your client towards their emotions, to be able to kind of mine them for wisdom, to be able to experience them and tolerate them, to be able to use them in the way that they were meant to. We've talked about in previous videos how emotions have functions, and it's important to cash in on those functional benefits as opposed to ignoring them. And that, defenses, raising anxiety and the way that we try and get around anxiety, well, that's really the path away from emotions that your client's walking down on, which is really causing them the problems they're having in life. So, with all that being said, it's really important then for you as the clinician to be an expert on emotions. And funnily enough, most clinicians have little to no training in being able to read emotions in their client. Now stop and think about that for a second. Our target here is to help our client transition from emotion A to emotion B. Get away from anxiety, get into the sadness. Get away from the intellectualization, get into the anger. But how much do we really know about what emotions look like? So I would suggest for anybody who's interested to get a more in-depth opportunity to train in being able to read emotions, to check out Paul Ekman's work. And he has an amazing website, and I have that in the description box of this video to further the training here. But what I want to do in this video is I'm going to run through the 6 basic biological emotions that we have, how to read them in the face, and to have some understanding of what they may be responding to in your client's life. One thing that's really important to keep in mind when reading emotions is that this is hard. This video is not enough, and like I said, check out Paul Ekman's work. Because what you're looking for is how the face is enunciating, is describing the feelings that your client's having. Words are great. Words are descriptive, and they're also misleading. That our body, and specifically our face, is designed in such a way to give so much color, to communicate emotions. And we, with our mirror neurons, are geared to be able to receive those emotions from clients. And that's, one reason why, as you're doing the work that you're doing with your clients, that you yourself are having the emotions that they seem to be having as well. Emotions are contagious, but we read them in a person's body, and again, specifically their face, and not so much in their words. Another thing to keep in mind is that you can't so much read emotions in a person's body. It really is, like I said, in their face. One way of thinking about it is that you can get the exact feeling from the face, but the body shows how the feeling is being carried. Then in previous videos, I talked about how anxiety is very much in the body, and that's showing how the emotions are being carried. The tension that a person's having, the resistance to those feelings. But the resistance is not going to tell you what emotion the person is struggling with. The face will. So there are 6 biologically based emotions, and it doesn't matter where you're born, it doesn't matter what culture you have, it doesn't matter what time period in human history. We all have these 6, and they have very unique and universal facial expressions that you'll have. Doesn't matter if you're from New Guinea, doesn't matter if you're from deep within the Amazon rainforest, or Jerusalem or New York City. You're going to have the same facial expressions, and you're born with these. Children almost immediately have these facial expressions. Some have a little bit of lag time. Fear is an emotion that takes a little bit longer to develop. In kids, it's about the time they become mobile and they're moving around. But, other than that, these things are already pre-programmed and ready to go at birth. In all of these 6 emotions, it's important for me to mention that where you're looking is in the brows, the forehead area, the eyes, the cheeks, the mouth, and the nose. Those are going to be the central areas that emotion is expressed, and it's almost like you're combining a code, of looking at, well, if a brow's like this and a nose is like that and a mouth's like this, well, chances are that's going to be fear. So you're going to be kind of putting together an emotional puzzle in the person's face. Another problem that you're going to, just knowing ahead of time, is that emotions, when they come out in a person's face, to get the genuine read on the person, it's going to be a split second. Generally, people try and hide their emotions. We're going to get into that in the sixth. Some emotions are easily used to mask other emotions better than most. Happiness is a good example of that. So it's not something that is easy to catch. And again, that's why I said it's going to require a lot of training, but it's well worth it. Because again, you are the best source of information in the room. What you are observing, what you're putting together, what you're sensing, you have to analyze all that and be able to present it to the client in a way that's useful to him. And noticing emotions, that is probably the most essential tool that you can have in your arsenal. All right, let's get back into it. Surprise. Surprise is going to be in 3 key areas of the face. It's going to be in the brow, the eyes, and the mouth. It's the briefest of emotions, and it transitions into something else. And usually it's going to transition into fear, sometimes anger. So when looking at this emotion, you're going to be noticing the brow is raised, that you have curved high lines in the brow, and they're going to be horizontal wrinkles across the forehead itself. So you have the curves up here and the straight lines down here. As far as the eyes, they're going to be wide open. Surprise, the function of that emotion is to gather in as much information as you can. So the eyes are going to be wide. The lower eyelid is usually going to be relaxed, while the upper eyelid is going to be quite raised. And you're going to be able to see the whites of the eye in the top section. The mouth is going to be dropped open. Maybe you're going to see some teeth, maybe you won't, but again, there's going to be a lot more of a relaxedness, droppingness in the mouth area. The next emotion is fear. Like I said, this is going to usually follow surprise. Fear, you're going to notice this in 3 parts of the face. It's going to be the eyes, it's going to be in the forehead, and it's going to be in the mouth. Fear is almost always a response to some sort of physical or emotional threat, a danger that your client is perceiving. And what usually follows fear is going to be more often than not anger, a resentment, a feeling this wasn't correct, this wasn't just, that the person was caused to feel fear. So fear is going to, again, like I'm saying, is transitioning into a more judgmental emotion. Sometimes sadness can follow, and usually you'll have sadness from fear when you have prolonged exposures to this feeling of fear. Now, as far as looking in the eyes, the upper eyelids are going to be raised, and you're going to be able to see the white parts of the upper eye, whereas the lower eyelids are going to be drawn up. The brow, well, that's going to be drawn close together and wrinkled in the forehead center area. And the mouth is going to have a lot of tension. The lips are either going to be tensed and stretched back, or there's going to be some sort of like clenching with this feeling, clenching in a almost like there's a silent scream. Again, this drawing back. The next feeling is disgust, and disgust you're going to see in the entire face. This isn't just going to be in the brow and the eye and the mouth, but is also going to include the nose and the cheeks. The feeling of disgust is a feeling of aversion. This is a unique emotion. A lot of times, 9 times out of 10, morality is connected with disgust. There's a lot of shared neurological mechanisms between this feeling and morality. It's going to be a lot of times communicating an idea, not necessarily an emotion. The emotional aspect of disgust is really going to center around things that are physically disgusting, garbage, things like that. So in the clinical hour, it's going to more often be this other type, this more moralistic type of disgust. So where you're going to see disgust in the eyebrows, they're going to be lowered, and it's going to almost cause the upper eyelid to also lower a little bit in the way that the eyebrows are coming down. The eyes, the lines are going to be shown between the lower eyelid, and the lid's going to be pushed up a bit because of the tension. The mouth is going to be raised, and the lower lip, that also is going to be raised. There's this feeling, force moving upwards on the face. And the nose will wrinkle, almost as though like the person is clenching their face to try and keep out whatever is disgusting from getting in. And again, the cheeks are raised too. It's almost like the entire face is coming into one central point in the middle of the face. Two feelings related to disgust that are important to know about are contempt and scorn. Contempt, the general, and again, these are going to be more often what you're going to be seeing in the session with your client. Contempt is more about judging people, judging actions, and usually carries with it this person has a sense of superiority, that they're better than the person that they're talking about. So in many ways it's a safe emotion, but it's not necessarily one that is doing a whole lot of good for your client. Oftentimes the key to catching contempt is watching the two sides of the mouth. That what'll happen is maybe one side will just go straight back like that. A lot of psychopaths, sociopaths will quite often have this facial expression. So that's an out with that small demographic. Now, not too many of those sort of people are coming into your clinic, but you might be running into them when you have, say, a wife coming in who's reporting problems with her husband. There's abuse going on. She's afraid. Maybe she's afraid for her life. Well, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be someone like that, a sociopath or psychopathic qualities. And the second is scorn. Scorn is more it's contemptuous, but it's more focusing on the other person's failings. It's a put down sort of feel to it, that the person being talked to is lower than scum and so irrelevant that maybe your client's talking about them in this sort of humorous, deriding sort of way. Anger. Anger has two faces, no pun intended. Anger is important because the function of anger is noticing something that shouldn't be. It's necessary to have this emotion. Again, a very moralistically based side of our emotions comes out here, in the sense of seeing something that's not good. And it can be a great motivator to change for the positive, but quite often anger getting blended with disgust, contempt, and scorn becomes a very destructive emotion. And that's probably what you're going to be seeing more often, the second darker side of anger in your therapy session. This type of anger is often referred to as a secondary emotion, that for a lot of people it's easier for them to experience anger as opposed to their primary emotion, their initial emotional response to things, say sad or fear. Well, a person from like a meta emotional sort of response will kind of look at sad, fear, these other emotions that they feel uncomfortable with, and they'll shoot right to anger. So the work here when noticing anger is to figure out, well, is this a primary emotion or is this a secondary emotion? And then zooming in and seeing if it's a secondary emotion, fish out the more fundamental, the more basic emotion that, again, is probably going to be more adaptive and useful to the client as opposed to the anger. So anger, you're going to see in 4 parts of the face, in the eyebrows, eyes, mouth, and nose. As far as the eyebrows go, the eyebrows are going to be lowered and drawn together. You're going to have vertical lines between the eyebrows. The eyes, Again, there's going to be this tension, this squeezing, that they're really zeroing in on a target. The mouth, you'll have two basic positions when it comes to fear. So either the mouth is going to be pressed firmly together, or the mouth will be open, but it'll be more in like this square box shape. And the nose, you'll see that the nostrils are dilated. Here, there's more biological features that you might notice with anger. A person might get red in the face. You might start seeing bulging of veins, or even their eyes might bulge. Heavy breathing. Here you have a lot of muscle tension. And as you're watching the client, he might even look like he's kind of jerking forward a little bit, like his body wants to do something. Anger can be confused with thinking. Next time you go on a bus ride, you're in the public forum where people are just sitting. A lot of times people just look angry, and this can be a person's resting face when they're analyzing something. So it can be a little ambiguous. Also, people try their hardest to mask anger. So you might only catch this in one part of the face, and there's no way of really telling for sure, is it anger or is it something else? You end up having a hard time catching this one. But like I say, usually within a clinical setting, anger will come to the fore rather quickly, or with some time, but it'll be there. So you can wait to double check to see if you got the emotion right. Sadness. Here you're going to see sadness in three parts of the face: in the eyebrows, the eyes, and the mouth. Sadness, as far as its function is concerned, is the experience of losing something. It's more of a passive feeling. It's not so active. It's getting caught dead in your tracks, and often follows some sort of distress. So as far as the eyebrows are concerned, the inner corners of the eyebrow are going to be drawn up. The skin below the eyebrows, right around here, the eyebrows will kind of come up into a triangle. And that's really hard to pull off when you're not sad. So that's a dead giveaway. That's the emotion that you're looking at. For you parents out there, just as an aside, that's going to be one of the best ways of telling if your little baby is sad or angry. Usually that baby's angry. It's rare to see a sad baby. They're furious at you. They are not sad. But that, again, just that aside, looking at the eyes, you have the upper eyelids, the inner corners, they're going to be raised. And the mouth, there's going to be a drooping down at the corners of the mouth, and probably trembling in the lips. The last of the six universal emotions is happiness. Now, if you notice in this list, except for surprise, which, okay, that's neutral, but usually ends up being more negative, more often than not, happiness is the only positive emotion. Emotion in general, if you think on a neurological level, there's really two options of a person in their experience: openness or closedness. Now, happiness is going to be very open. So as far as that's concerned, openness on that level is going to be the motivator to push people forward, to be more curious, to want to get more and see more. There's going to be safety in this feeling, as opposed to all of the other emotions. They're more like, emotional brakes on a person. Stop, something's wrong, something you don't like, tread carefully. Happiness is something we're all looking for. And, a lot of clients might be coming in feeling pretty discouraged that they're not more happy, and that might even be their goal, to be happier. What researchers are finding out is that half of a person's emotional makeup, their baseline emotional makeup, is genetic. And that we tend to have a baseline that we're just born with. And so it's good to let clients know that this is going to be a challenge, that already half of whatever their situation is going to be what they're going to be having to deal with. 10% is circumstance, but 40% of a person being able to develop happiness is in their hands. So there is a lot of hope to be able to develop that more in your client's life. There's 4 different, you can kind of think of avenues that happiness is expressed because of: pleasure, excitement, relief, and self-happiness. And for some clients, they might only be able to experience happiness in one of those 4. It could be 1 or 2 are blocked. And the work is going to be not just being happy, but developing different flavors of happiness, different areas of life that happiness can be cultivated. So where do you look in the face? So in the eyes, the lower eyelids, they're going to show some wrinkles, and a great sign of genuine happiness. You'll get a lot of crow feet, sort of lines from the corners of the eye there. The mouth is going to be drawn back and up. It may or may not be open. Either expresses happiness. In the cheeks, the cheeks are going to be raised up, and the nose, you might get some wrinkles here, and they'll be drawn down towards the mouth. So those are the 6 universal emotions. Physical features, great way of tracking your client, being able to stay with him, in as far as its clinical use, just noticing the facial expressions your client makes, and then questioning, why are you angry here? Where did sadness come in? Now, often the client's going to be taken aback and not even realizing that's the emotion that they have. And so it's very good to be familiar with what facial expressions, emotions have, because you're going to be able to use this to train clients to have a greater awareness of their emotions and to be able to catch their defenses before they develop full on. So it's almost as though you're kind of using facial expressions as an early warning system to get ahead of again, those defenses and anxiety. I hope this video was helpful. And if you liked it, go ahead and give it a like. If you want to shoot me a message, you can do so in the comment box, or you can check out my website and send me an email. If you want to support my work, you can do so on Patreon. I'll see you in the next video.